This is key, Stephen and Teresa, and since I do get the chance to share this, this is a part that so many people are missing because we have so many distractions. We have so much that's good, that's just amazing that we can experience on the outwardly, especially in our community. I mean, we have so much. And so many of us are looking outwardly and having these outward experiences. And with the part that's missing is the inner journey. And when we go deeper into the inner journey, that's where the treasure is. That's where the nuggets are. That's where it's like drinking from a living well. And it is so profound. And that's where the mystical is. That's where the divine shows up in your lovemaking and in your home when God just walks in. It's just profound. And the deeper we go in the inward journey, that's where the riches are.
This is episode 23 of the Ownstream podcast featuring Ayanna Mojica.
Welcome to the Ownstream podcast. I'm Teresa Scoba.
And I'm Stephen Shelley.
And we just got off the phone with Ayanna Mojica. What a rich conversation.
Yeah.
It really was a special, deep conversation about Ayanna's life and her work in the world today. We know Ayanna from here in Encinitas, and we've had a number of really special serendipitous interactions with her at a cafe where we work. It's a bit of a hub here in Encinitas for people working in consciousness, and it's an interesting place. And also have seen her in a number of other places. So this was so great to connect with her for such a deep and rich conversation about her life and work. And Ayanna has had very deep, rich life of spiritual experience. And we were just talking about how she's really at the leading edge of what is coming through now on our planet, in consciousness, and is working to channel that through to people that she works with.
Yeah, I think just to prepare people for the contents of this episode, I don't think I could have listened to this 10 years ago. Ayanna is I think the words leading edge is dead on, and some extraordinary things that she describes. And now I just know too many people who have had very similar types of experiences. Let's call them metaphysical, if you will, or kind of other dimensions, other realms that she's able to contact. This is certainly not anything new, but I think more and more nowadays, this is becoming more and more widespread, though it certainly isn't, they're not talking about it on CNN, for example, but so by widespread, I mean that I think it's becoming more there's more of an opening for these kinds of things, for people who are interested in that. So I'll just tell you a bit about me, and I think Teresa, you're in the same position. Like, we believe all of this is true. We know it's true, actually. Can just intuit that, and I know that voice is never wrong. But quite specifically, I've never had an experience of, say, some other entity or being kind of making themselves known to me, at least in my waking day-to-day life. Though, as I share with Ayanna, I would love for something like that to occur to me, and I think Teresa would agree with that. So I say all this as preparation to come to this with a very open mind, because Ayanna to us is quite at the leading edge, has created in herself an opening for other levels of information to penetrate into our level. And she refers to it once, I don't know if you picked up on this, but she used the word a gift, and I thought, wow, that is absolutely the perfect word, because that is such an extraordinary thing. And then to have the courage to turn around and share so openly and candidly and powerfully, like own it, the way that she does is to me, the height of admiration for her.
Yeah, and she's very clear that she had these gifts from a very young age, a connection, an experience of something greater than what was before her eyes. But she's also very clear that she put a lot of her energy and her time and her devotion on cultivating that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not she had the glimpses, but she also she could have, and she talks about how she was tempted to actually just have the life before her eyes, be a teacher and a mother and, have her job and ... right? But she spent hours in profound contemplation, quiet, meditation, devotion, trying to get close and comfortable and empowered by that something else she felt. And, this is particularly interesting for Stephen and I right now, I think, because we've begun to meditate for 1 hour a day, which is more than we ever have on any consistent basis.
Right.
And the results have already, the deepening and the expansion is already happening. And I think we want to be doing even more than that. So it's, she has a deep, long-standing practice. And she's also very, she has these metaphysical experiences, but she's also very accessible and real as a human being who has experienced death and trauma and many things in her own life that she's overcome to maintain and expand that connection.
Yeah, her feet are on the ground. I mean, she has a vibrant business. She's very active in the world. You'll pick up on that right away. She balances these two worlds, if you will, so elegantly. And her business is all about empowering women to kind of own the birthright that is theirs of wealth. And she uses some very powerful phrases in this conversation, a poverty mentality. And she talks about the belief in lack, which our guy Bentinho Massaro talks about too. Just there is no lack. But by virtue of the fact that we've forgotten how powerful we are, we've been led to believe there is lack. There is no lack. Anything is actually possible when cleared, and she talks about trauma a lot, but when cleared of whatever residue, trauma or baggage from the past that we might be carrying around. We get into law of attraction a lot. She has an extraordinary view on that. She ties it into all these wonderful spiritual traditions. She talks about it in terms of quantum physics, which is very much a focal point for those of us interested in the kind of spirituality of today, because quantum physics, no surprise to many of us, is confirming what many of the sages have been saying for literally thousands of years. She talks about that beautifully. So this podcast is really about kind of her spiritual life and how she accesses, or how she's available to all of this wonderful information and energy. And then on the other side of it, a profoundly empowered view of spirituality and how that ties into wealth and living an exciting, full, adventurous, wonderful, joyful life, which she absolutely does. So this is a very rich conversation, to use that word, because her spiritual life has manifested in the outer world as this very vibrant, powerful, wealthy outer life. So I think if those things are interesting to you, you're in for a big time treat. And if you're a little skeptical, I encourage you to open your mind, because take our word for it. There's an enormous amount that you can learn from Ayanna and the teaching that she's bringing through. So we hope you'll enjoy this. We'll be back afterwards to wrap up. Until then, sit back and relax and enjoy this great conversation with Ayanna Mojica. Well, Ayanna, welcome to the show. I like calling it a show. I think it's my theater background, which you and I have in common.
Yeah.
But you and I and Teresa, I guess we met you at Eve, a wonderful place in downtown Encinitas, sort of the hub for cool, conscious, entrepreneurial types here in Southern California. And
Plant-based
who eat a certain way. That's obviously a big focus of the restaurant. But anyway, we struck up a conversation with you, and of course, no surprise, we have a great deal in common. And you and I in particular share some similar flavors to our background with the arts, but but always kind of having a notion towards something else, a spiritual life, what else is going on here. Anyway, welcome to the podcast, and I think by way of starting, it'd be great to hear sort of a little bit about your path in the early days, and if there were notions early on about kind of where your life might lead you, any kind of interesting stories or vignettes of surprises or things that sort of just seemed maybe all ready to show that you weren't going to live, quote unquote, a mainstream life.
Wow, great question, and thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast. I'm very honored. I saw the list of your other former guests, and I'm like, oh, I'm in good company. So thank you. Yeah. So that's a good question, and no one has ever asked me that question. And when I look back and see myself as that young Ayanna, as a child, and growing into adolescence and young womanhood, I would say that I always felt very different than those who were around me. And so I like to say that I came out of my Puerto Rican mother's womb dancing and as a mystic. That's how I showed up on planet Earth.
Nice. It's a good combo.
And very connected to nature. And I was a natural leader. So, and I was very, very attracted to the arts. I'm the only one in my family. I have 5 siblings. And so I was very connected to the arts, very connected to nature, already having these experiences, mystical experiences, and a leader. And I was a leader I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters. But before my sisters came along, there was me, my 3 brothers, 5 male cousins, 3 male best friends, and 1 female cousin. And I was the ringleader of all of that. and I was the ringleader of all these boys. And creating tree houses, and let's do this choreography in the street, and let's go, let's build something. And so as a young girl, that was who I was. That's how it was showing up. And it's interesting, and I want to say this to Teresa, that's great when you're a little girl. But then it came a time when it was considered bossy. And I know that little boys, when they have those leadership qualities and they grow into their young manhood and to their, who they are in the world, those leadership qualities are not considered bossy. They're considered good attributes.
Right.
But being a girl, it was considered bossy. And so those are kind of my early memories of, okay, here I am, this sparkling light, who's a mystic and an artist and a leader, and then all of a sudden now I'm bossy. So that's an early memory, and I have a lot of early memories talking to the animals, talking to the trees, getting responses, and very attracted to the arts. So I just went into that field, into the arts and dance and choreography.
And tell us a little bit about, where you went from there, I guess. So now, I know that you describe yourself as a priestess of power and wealth. Wow, what a powerful statement. And that your work now is to help women to master their wealth and feminine power. How did you get from, how did you get from there to here? and and maybe tell us a little bit about, I know you've had a very rich spiritual journey along the way from those early experiences. Maybe tell us a little bit about what happened from there.
Wow. Well, life happened. I do have a history. I want to say a history. I have a history where I experienced trauma, or experienced early childhood trauma. And then I ended up in a domestic violence situation as a young single mother. And then I was stalked. Then I was stalked by a rapist murderer. So that's the short version. And that's where all the trauma came in. But while I was doing all that, while that was happening, this deep connection to the divine, deep connection to God, deep connection to the I am that I am, very deep, profound connection. And still doing my art, going to school, studying. I received my master's in fine arts in dance and choreography and dance history. I did 4.5 years plus 2 years of a pre-doctorate for expressive arts. And so that whole journey with the arts was always there, was always my underpinning, as well as the deep spiritual connection and the mystical experience. So life is happening. Here's this trauma that's there. And then here's the arts and spirit. And to get to the place where Mary Magdalene is actually who called me the priestess of power and wealth, I actually did a lot of deep processing and a lot of deep healing of the traumatic energy that was still in my system and caused so much upset and so much crises in my life while I was doing all this and being a professor and doing everything I did. I was still having these upsets in my life. And so in 2012, the end of 2012, my fiance passed away, and that threw me into another upset. And I went into about 2.5 years of suicidal grief, wanting to die and trying to plan how to do it. And after that, I woke up one day because I had lost everything. He's gone. I'm in grief. Money's gone. My house is gone. My temple is gone. The spiritual work we were doing, I thought was gone. And that part, that dying part, when I emerged from that, I chose to create a new mandala, a new way of life. And it was in that moment of me waking up on the floor of my empty apartment, not knowing even how I got there. Empty cupboards, empty refrigerator, $125 in my account. Wondering how am I going to pay the rent, pay my car. And I woke up and I'm like, holy Toledo, Ayanna, first of all, how did you get here? And what are we going to do about it? And that's when Mary Magdalene, who I already had been introduced to in another story, I could tell you that story another time. She, I was like inspired and on fire. It was like, okay, I'm choosing life. I'm going to recreate this, whatever that looks like. I will never, ever be broken again. And what do we need to do to get there? And so I heard this, okay, now you step into being a priestess of power and wealth, and you help other women. You help them to create a legacy of sustainable wealth. You help those women who are mystics, who are artists, who are healers, who are teachers, who are tantrikas, who are eco-entrepreneurs, who are on, these visionary leaders. You help them to bring together what has been incongruent with that powerful, being so powerful in that way, and then disempowered with money. You bring those two together, because I'm not the only woman who's been in that situation. And how can we reclaim? How can I do this for myself? And how can I help other women do it? And that's where I'm at now. I bring it all together. I bring the wealth. I embrace unapologetically. I'm a wealthy mystic who is an artist, who is powerful spiritually, And I choose to prepare myself so I can come to the table with the millionaires and billionaires so we can also have the resources to do those things that we can co-create together to make the world a better place. That's where I'm at.
Wow.
I love talking about it, and there's like so many layers of stories within what I just shared in the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, when Teresa asked you that question, I thought that's a big question. Well, I have
There's so much in there.
I have a couple of follow-ups. One, which is a little more, I guess, maybe for the specific arts people out there. Did you have a period of like dancing or making dance and as a career path? It sounds like you did some teaching in there. Why don't you? Let's just cover that for sure, and then I have another follow-up about the Mary Magdalene story.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the dance.
Yeah.
Well, my first exposure to the dance was actually ballet. My mom took me to a ballet class when I was a little girl, and it freaked me out. I don't know why. I just freaked out and didn't want to go back. And then I ended up embracing it. I went to a private, all-girls private school. It's no longer around, but they had, it's called Finch College in New York, and ambassadors' daughters went to that school. Nixon's daughter went to that school. Robert Kennedy Jr. was going in and out of, our dining room all the time. And so I was in this very unique bubble of privilege, which was interesting because I'm a brown-skinned Puerto Rican girl going into that school and, middle class. And that's where I was first introduced to the Graham technique. I had a teacher, Betty Lowe, who danced with Graham, and she was also a ballerina. So from her, I was introduced to the Graham technique, so that's my foundation. And fast forward to learning flamenco and really having this desire and this urge to be the kind of dancer I knew I could be. And I realized that, so I only had a little bit of ballet at Finch College, but then I realized that if I really wanted to dance and take it further, that I would need the discipline of the ballet, because my discipline was modern dance. And coming out here to the West Coast, I got accepted to UC Irvine, which still has a very strong dance department, one of the best in the nation. And this little brown-skinned little Puerto Rican girl who was doing flamenco and some modern dance got accepted. And so that was a full program of ballet, modern jazz, tap, and flamenco, and choreography, philosophy, kinesiology, music for dancers. I had a very comprehensive program. And while that was happening, I started some dance, little dance groups. And then I went on to teach as an assistant professor in dance in Illinois. And so I choreographed. I did a little bit of performing. I did more choreography, lots of teaching. And after I taught there, I came back to California, taught at colleges, and began to be asked to teach teach different groups. And then I would start groups. I always started small groups. I've been invited to dance for the Traveling Theater of Hispanic Students. And so I did a little performing there, did a little performing in Switzerland up in the Alps, and really teaching. I did a lot more teaching and choreography than performing, but I did have the performance in there. And recently, over the last 10 years, I've been invited to do more solo. So I do solo interpretive dancing and inspired dance with the ocean. I performed for the renowned researcher, water researcher, Dr. Masato Emoto, for his 70th birthday. So those are the kind of ways that I performed.
Nice. And so it sounds like you still have a performing life. That's very cool.
I do. When I'm
nice.
invited, I do. Yeah.
Well, so the other question that I wanted to try to unpack with you, since you introduced it, is so on your website you have a beautiful spiritual biography, and we've gone through that, and and so what I'd love to do is, as much as in as clear a fashion as you can, because this is now we're getting into the kind of the invisible world here, but this notion of being contacted or having a revelation of Mary Magdalene, and I'm fascinated by that because, quite frankly, nothing like that's ever happened specifically quite like that for me. I have certain messages that come through in their own way, more as kind of emotional guidance. But one of my desires in life is to have an experience kind of like what you described. And so what I'd love for you to do, if you can, is to sort of trace the spiritual seeking or experiences that you were endeavoring from an early life up until that moment that kind of cascaded into such a clear, beautiful contact and subsequent message that you've now been empowered to activate in the world. We have like a dozen questions about that mission, but maybe this is just for me.
No, it's for me too.
And for Teresa, but like we believe all of that. We know that's true, but how to kind of create the opening for some kind of moment like that is something I would love to know more about.
Wow, that's a beautiful question. You're asking me awesome questions.
Oh, good.
And I'm able, you are, things I love to talk about and not most people want to hear.
Nice.
But, they're great questions, and it's allowing me the luxury of going back in time and, pulling the jewels out and, opening those boxes up again. So beautiful. Thank you. I am absolutely sure. So this is one thing. I'm absolutely sure that I have been gifted through the lineage. My grandmother was very, very gifted spiritually. And however, she was raised in a Catholic, my family's from Puerto Rico. So this Catholic environment that in some ways recognize the spiritual world through espiritismo, what they call espiritismo, spiritism, and santeria, which is the synchronization of African gods and goddesses with Christianity, Christian saints, Catholic saints. She was also very gifted with the times and the seasons and being able to look at the sky at night. We would do this together, look at the sky at night and be able to tell what the weather was going to be the next day. She was just so gifted and had to repress a lot of it because the family didn't approve. However, I'm the one who got it. I'm the one who naturally received that. So I have her as my mentor, and not that she wasn't directly teaching me, but just by being around her, I picked up a lot and found it to be natural. So I had this natural gift, and then having these experiences. I had experiences, some of them real young, some of them that were very positive, and some of them that were actually experiences that were antagonistic from the spiritual world. And then also my family, which was, this Catholic, and then this other Christian part. And you just don't, if you do this, you're a sinner and all that. So when I realized that my gifts weren't that appreciated, I didn't share too much. And however, I was also getting these dreams, and the dreams were coming true. I was getting dreams, and I would look in the newspaper and the next day, and there's the dream. There's in the news. And over time, I developed, and this is one thing I would encourage for the two of you and anyone else who wants to develop their spiritual gifts, is I spent dedicated time. It was very natural for me to spend dedicated time every day in quiet adoration, quiet worship, I would say. In the term bhakti, there's that term bhakti where you're like adoring through song. And so I spent a lot of time that way, in between working and raising my kids and going to school, and choreography was just a habit. And I would spend time just being still and quiet. And in that space, the secret garden, in that space is where I developed an even deeper resonance with the I am that I am. Some people say God, the beloved. I love saying the beloved. It was so deep, and because I was open and sensitive, because it was my world, I was already engaging with angels and other beings. Then the more I cultivated that, the more I received and experienced.
Got it.
So it is our world. We're multidimensional, and there are parallel worlds and dimensions throughout the universe, and the veil is actually pretty thin between this 3D, where we are right now here in Encinitas, and the other side. And quite frankly, the other side is, for me, is more real, it's colorful, it's fun, it's juicy, it's free. And so developing that and cultivating it is how my gifts expanded. And there was a time when, and I didn't have a mentor, because again, everybody around me was like, you don't do that. But the gifts were getting stronger. And there was a time when I would fall asleep and end up in different countries. I mean, each night I was in a different country. And it was freaking me out, because I didn't know that was, I was astral traveling. I mean, I was going to different countries, experiencing assignments where I would be helping someone, or experiencing a world, something that would show up in the newspaper. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? This is freaking me out. I didn't have anybody I could share with. And then I said, that's it. I'm done. Not doing it anymore. Let me just have a normal life.
Right.
A normal life, which my life has never been normal. Normal life, teaching, doing my dance, raising my kids. Let me have a normal life. And I have to tell you, Stephen and Teresa, that got kind of boring.
Yeah.
Because imagine a life in black and white or in Technicolor. So when I chose the normal life, that was like a black and white life. And eventually I'm okay. The gifts never leave. They're there. It's just, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm sorry, God. I want my gifts back. I don't care. And so just let me just fast forward, because that's very juicy in itself. That topic there is like, whoa. And through life happening, in 2008, we all know that the economy crashed. And that economy crashing, I had just left my full-time teaching position and started my business, and everything was going well, and the economy crashed. But I didn't have everything in place, my foundation in place, and so I crashed with that, and it scared the heck out of me. scared the heck out of me because everybody was freaking out with this 2008 crash. And I was picking up everybody's, because I'm an empath, I was picking up everybody's fear and anxiety and, the scary places. And it was overwhelming. And then I said, okay, now, this I know to be true. I know that I have a deep, mature devotional practice, and that I know how to connect very deeply with God, no matter what. And so I went into, purposely, I doubled down and went into that place. Even though I had a practice, I went even deeper to hear what I was supposed to do, what's the message. And I spent about a good month in like hours of meditation and being silent and quiet, so I can quiet the fear that was in me and everything else I was picking up. And Mary Magdalene showed up. I mean, not in physical 3D form, but her essence, her light, her presence was like, it just happened. She showed up. And the Mary Magdalene I knew in the Bible, this was different. Mm-hmm. What she shared with me and what she told me and what she taught me and how she initiated me and what she gave me over several, weeks was pretty profound. And then she began to ask if I would mentor women as priestesses in this lineage that she'd given me, and men as white dragons, and that if I would bring this lineage that comes from Egypt and through Isis and through this mystical Christian Mary Magdalene, and that I would begin to teach it. And she was sharing me that how important it was for this time, especially with the men and the women coming together in sacred union, and how important and how powerful it is for what wants to come forth and the co-creation of the new earth. And that happened in summer of 2009. Mm-hmm. So that's Mary Magdalene. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And even with how I've been showing up since 2009, every aspect, and especially this wealth aspect, the wealth part is like the final key. Is the final key in this co-creation and this high sacred union between the awakened masculine and awakened feminine, and them, the two together coming into a dharmic relationship and doing the higher work. And this piece with the wealth and the piece with the women coming into their feminine power, all of this is key. And that's my short version of Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, that was very powerful. I really could feel it here. And I know I appreciate your descriptions of your practice. And, Stephen and I have been meditating for some time, but recently have been devoting much more time to quiet devotion, meditation. And, I read something recently about, if you focus, we focus all of our time, besides the small sets of time we put aside for meditation, on the world in front of our eyes. That's all we're going to experience. Sometimes I think often I certainly have made so many excuses and have not deepened my practice as a result. So it was very powerful. That was very powerful to hear your experience, and also thinking about the outside circumstances of your life that unfolded that you talked about before, and this calling that you have had that brings together those deep spiritual experiences with your own personal experiences in this physical space. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about, if you could tell us, moving forward from that experience, what you would say your calling is now. We talk a lot about callings and how you've moved that into a business. How have you kind of actualized that into the world?
Thank you. If I may just go back to that piece on the devotion, because this is key. Stephen and Teresa, and since I do get the chance to share this, this is a part that so many people are missing. Because we have so many distractions. We have so much that's good, that's just amazing, that we can experience on the outwardly, especially in our community. We have so much. And so many of us are looking outwardly and having these outward experiences. And the part that's missing is the inner journey. Mm-hmm. And when we go deeper into the inner journey, that's where the treasure is. That's where the nuggets are. That's where it's like drinking from a living well. And it is so profound. And that's where the mystical is. That's where the divine shows up in your lovemaking and in your home when God just walks in. That's when it's just profound. And the deeper we go in the inward journey, that's where the riches are. And I would say for a couple who's in sacred union, that's my sense about the two of you, that having that personally, doing that personally, like dedicating that time like you would to a lover, dedicating that time like it's you and God, as you would you and your lover personally, and then dedicating that time in sacred union that way. Wow. That's like very profound, very powerful. That's when the angels come in. That's when it is just profound. So, and it's rich. It's very, very rich. So that's what I want to encourage you to, because you are here. You're doing this together and devoted to one another, and having that's oof. And then you have your child, and you create that as your hub. Create that as your hub, your center. So that's what I like to say about that. Now, how did I create this as a business, and how do I live my life now? Well, again, I went through that death experience, and in being an artist, I had, and spiritual, I was like, okay, help me make sense of this. Me losing the love of my life and having this amazing life that we were in dharmic relationship, a sacred union, profoundly financially abundant, doing our ministry and our work that we do, living a good life, and then he's gone. Like 3 months, 3 months later, he's gone. We were together 26 months, and three months it was 3 months before he died towards the end. I'm like, whoa. And so here's this creation that was beautiful and very highly evolved, and then it's gone. And to make sense of it in my death experience, my own personal death experience, I realized that it was like creating a mandala. And I watched the Buddhist monks. I actually personally seen them in their presence as they take this fine sand, colored sand. So there's all these colors of this fine sand and these sacred implements. And they move together with these, it's amazing, with these implements and these colored sands, and they begin to create this mandala as a meditation. And it's created over several days. And on the seventh day, it is released. Some of it is blown into the wind, some into the ocean. And in the releasing of it, which seems to be like a destruction, I realized that even in the releasing, even in his transition, going beyond the veil into his light body, that too was sacred. that too was holy. And so from that place of him leaving to the place of me creating a new life, which I call the in-between of the inhale and the exhale, or the exhale and the inhale, that pregnant pause, that was holy. There was God was there, is there. And now it was about what's the new mandala that I'm going to create. So I came on the other side of that, realizing that me as a co-creator with God, I am that I am, we can create this new life. And I can make it anything I want it to be. I can make it whatever I want it to be. And so I said, okay, well, we experienced that. We experienced all the trauma and the drama and even death and ups and downs in life and all that. So why don't we just create something that's like full of fun and joy and pleasure, lots of art, lots of travel, mystic, be the mystic and be wealthy. You've never been wealthy, so why don't you just do that too? What does this look like? Who do you want to work with? You know, I want to travel. I want to go to these different places. What is it going to take? Mm-hmm. So I decided after Mary Magdalene was sharing with me, oh, you're now the priestess of power and wealth. I said, okay. I immediately began to share. Remember, I only had $125 in my account.
Right.
That same day when I woke up out of that crazy mist, that place I was in, I'm like, oh, shoot. What are we going to do? And, you know, within 3 days, you know, the next 3 days, I actually put it out there. I got a coach for $100. I said, what can I do? Who can I afford? I got a coach for $100. $100. I took that $100 and $25. I went and bought some groceries. I took the $100 and began to share and proclaim that the women, that we are priestesses of power and wealth and who's on board. Mm-hmm. And women responded. And so I offered private coaching and I offered 2 seminars and they filled. And so within 3 days, I had $5,500 and a following. There was a following. And so that's how I created the business.
Wow.
That's how I created
Sweet.
Online, on the phone. Yeah, wow. And then, you know, the 5,500 became 10,000. And, you know, that's how I've created the life I have now. And it's more to come.
Well, so this brings in some topics we absolutely wanted to cover with you, namely about manifesting, co-creating, and the law of attraction. Maybe to begin, you could kind of define in your words what the law of attraction is, and then maybe we could just explore with you how a person obeys that law, how a person works with that law.
That's funny. That's great. I love the questions. Because I'm a mystic, I always look at everything that way first. And sages from millions, thousands of years ago have been operating from, quote unquote, the law of attraction, mm-hmm. as above, so below, as within, so without, and knew the secrets to manifesting instantly. I mean, instantly.
Yeah. We've
lost that. And so coming from that, I come from that position first. And then, you know, we live this life. Well, how do we get what we want? You know, how come this doesn't work? How come I'm not getting what I want? You know, and then as I was clearing my own trauma and clearing my own density that I had experienced through life, I'm like, wow, because I love the mystical. I love the metaphysics, and I would always study it. And then the proof came in quantum physics. Quantum physics itself was demonstrating the God particle. It's just phenomenal. And so here science and spirit are meeting, and now brain science and spirit are meeting and so what they call the law of attraction is the God particle. It's there. It's already there. So what I do is I learn and study the laws of the universe, which are the laws of the infinite potential, the God particle, if I can say that, or that which is greater than myself. And I study those and I align with it. And if anything's out of order in my life, anything that, I say to myself, well, if this is out of order, I need to bring it into balance with the laws of the universe. And once I bring those into balance, then everything flows. And it's so much easier to create and co-create because I'm in alignment with the laws of the universe. I'm in alignment with, God, I am that I am. And that's how I perceive the law of attraction. And I know that people, because of The Secret, which I think was a great book, a great movie, I got the original, the first version of that DVD, and then they changed it. But, when I was watching that DVD, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And then, you just have to think it and it happens, and it didn't.
Right.
And so a lot of people were disappointed. Well, you just have to think it, envision it, and create a vision board, and it happens. But that's not the way it goes. Because if we have deep programming that is contrary to what we want to create or experience, then we're going to have the cognitive dissonance, and it's not happening.
Yep.
It's just we're going to create what deep down inside in our subconscious is what we're going to create.
Right.
And so that was the law of attraction. But I still believe in that. It's just that they didn't give us the whole information.
Right.
And those are the secrets, the secrets. And so that's, that was my process. And that's why I'm able to so skillfully mentor the men and women. Right now, there's a lot of women, because I've been through what I've been through. I've seen the process. I know the processes that work. I know what we got to do to get to where we want to go. And so we have better results.
So tell us.
I was just speaking to a client. I was just speaking to a client before I got on the call with you. And she had gone through a lot of trauma in the last couple of months. And she was, in our last call, she was cursing a lot. She was like, literally, the whole conversation was like, she was like furious, and all these curse words were coming out. And so today, she sounded a lot better. She's a lot more stable and happier. And I said, as your mentor, let me just share with you a principle. Okay. And I said, every time you curse, you're cursing yourself. It's the law of cause and effect. You are creating with every word and every thought. You are powerfully creating. And it stunned her. It was like something new. And I just began to emphasize it. I said, sweetheart, right now you are a powerful creator, and everything that you're saying and thinking, you're creating. And when you curse, that's what you're creating. That's the power. We have these powerful computers that can create. We created everything. And so with the quantum physics and knowing quantum physics and the power of our minds to create, and knowing how to use that tool, then do we have a better outcome.
So tell us a bit more about how that works. How do you do work with people to clear that? Because I know, sometimes people can spend, years or decades of their lives in therapy, or many years meditating, or, different practices where they get the same results, like you in a few days went from a very deep bottom of trauma to creating a new business. How do you, but you had that foundation and that experience and that deep connection. How do you how do you work with people? How do you clear the way for creation to happen?
Wow, it's a good question again. When I think about my processes, even though I went from like laying on the floor to 3 days later, I have this, I did some very deep clearing, personal clearing at the subconscious level. I had to go into the bottom of my grief, and I used a tool called the conscious mind cleansing that was created by, his name is Master Mitchell Gibson, who's actually a psychiatrist, who God had said to him, you could do it the easy way to help people, or you could do it the hard way. And which one do you want? He said the easy, and the hard way was doing typical psychiatry, or the easy was to create tools to help people.
Wow.
And so he's like so gifted. Oh my gosh, they're so gifted. He and his wife, Master Sadia, and because he already knew the tools of the subconscious, he knows how the brain works, and he also has a very vivid spiritual life, and very advanced, in fact. Then he was able to put those two together and create these tools. And one of them is releasement, which is are these subliminal sounds that work on clearing the trauma, because we all have it. The trauma, the clusters of cells, he says, and it's proven, it's like these clusters of cells that cluster because of the law of attraction. You get a trauma, it creates an energetic cell. We also have epigenetics, the science of epigenetics, where trauma gets passed down. So now you have a trauma in the brain, there's a cell, there's this energy that's there, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. So if there's a trauma, now there's energy in the brain, and unless it's cleared, it attracts more similar energies. So now you have a cluster of cells that are formed around a trauma that's there, and it's going to attract more. It's subconscious now. It's in the physical body, the energy body, the spiritual body, the auric body, and in the brain. And so so I had experienced all this trauma. I just lost everything, and plus the trauma from childhood. And so I'm in deep grief, and I'm like, let me try this releasement, because that's what it was for. It was to clear trauma. And I did. It went into like a whole month, 30 days, in my bed, hours and hours and hours, almost every day, I didn't eat, of clearing the trauma, crying, bawling. I mean, it was so deep. And then after about 30 days, I started feeling better. It was like, my mind felt better, my spirit felt better, my emotions felt better. I didn't have to do it every day now. I could do it every other day, and then it became once a week, and then once a month, and now I just use it when something comes up. So that's a tool that I use to clear the subconscious trauma. And they say in the advanced spiritual schools that these traumas create what's called a klippa, Qlli, klippa, P-A-H. And the klippa is like a coat. So it's like a spiritual coat that's placed on us. And we have layers of these, and we don't know it. So these tools, and I'm describing some of the things I do with the people I work with. If there's a trauma that's keeping a person from creating what they want, if it's like they've done everything they know to do, all the therapy and everything else, nothing's working. If they get to a certain point in their money, let's say their money, really good money, and then they sabotage it, if they have accidents and misfortunes and all kinds of crazy things you can't explain, then there's something in the early times of your life or even ancestral that is causing that. Mm-hmm. And so I help people, to remove those clippers. And most of the time, they're not even their own. Usually it's like somebody else's stuff on them. Yeah. So I help them dissolve that. I help them remove that so that their true self can come forth, and then now they can stop doing what they were doing and sabotaging and everything else. So that's one of the ways I work with them. So when I work with mentoring a person, a woman, a man, I find out what it is they want to create and why haven't they created it yet. And that's the big thing. Why haven't you created it yet? If this is what you want, why isn't it there yet? And then we go deeper and deeper and deeper into the why. And because of my very advanced ability to see, I'm a master seer and a master intuitive, I can see energetically what's going on. And with permission, then we transmute that. We clear it, we transmute it. So that's one thing. If there's anything ancestral, we deal with that. And at the same time, I'm giving them practical money-generating action steps, strategies to create the wealth or the life or the business they want to create. I begin to help them shift into wealth consciousness because there's such a poverty consciousness around right now. Is to shift into the wealth consciousness and dissolve the belief in lack, because the universe is just not lacking at all. Help them to really see their God self, because if they can really see and step into their God self, then they know that there is no lack. If you're God, there's no lack. And so there's a lot of the practical, because people want action. They want to see results, practical, but then let's look at what's really at the root of that's keeping you from that. And then we also embrace the spiritual, what we call also the metaphysical, create nice. the meta and the physical part. And what's unique about what I do also, besides clearing the trauma, is we bring in the sacred sexuality when it's welcomed, because there's a lot of power in our sexual energy. And so all of that is how I work with people.
When you're talking, Ayanna, I'm thinking like, what a wonderful time we live in, and what an amazing tool the technology that exists is, the internet, and just being able to have this conversation with you using, our computer, or at least on our side, our computer. It just, because everywhere I turn, I see coaches and interesting coaches emerging, addressing many of the byproducts of what we've kind of inherited from past generations, and kind of clearing not only the financial web, but all kinds of other things. And I think it leads to probably the last question we can ask you. We also have a quick little 3-question coda we always ask our guests, but we'll save that just for a moment. But maybe this is a final question. In this landscape of all this fascinating help that is there, and all the things that you've talked about, you alluded to something called the New Earth paradigm earlier, and you even write about that a little bit on your website. We have our own definition of that, Teresa and I, but I'd love to hear yours and where you kind of see yourself as as a part of that. So what is this new earth that seems to be emerging, and what is your specific role as you see it?
Wow, good question again. Well, I always like to look through my visionary eyes, and because I am a mystic and I am a visionary, that's how I see the world. And when most people don't see it that way, so they think you're weird. So I'm way out in the front, and then people catch up.
Right.
And so when I see this new earth, it's a place where, and it's already happening. It's already starting. Where it's already emerging.
Absolutely.
It's a place in time and space where everyone is expressing their highest expression, their highest gifts. Because when we do, that's when we're the happiest, and we're on purpose, and we're all working together for something greater. So everyone is expressing, all children, everyone is fed, all the basics are being expressed and experienced, but at a higher level. Not just, I got enough to eat, but at a higher level, where there are beautiful dwelling places that are created, people live in, that are in harmony with nature, that create an ambiance where even higher expressions of the arts and music and technologies and, just a higher, much, much higher vibration of expression way beyond anything we're experiencing now. A place where the parks, the buildings, our communities, everything we do is at a very highly evolved expression. With the new earth, I also see that the way of educating our children, it's holistic. It's right now we have the K to 12, and I know you have a little baby. K to 12, and it shouldn't take that long, and we shouldn't be traumatized through school. It's a dulling down, it's a dumbing down instead of the evolution of our brains and our capacity and our souls and our spirit and the arts. And so if the education doesn't take that long, instead of being educated for 12 years, life itself is an education, and we're able to evolve and create even greater things. I believe that the beings from the other worlds are part of this, and that there's very advanced sciences, very advanced arts and music, very advanced colors, very advanced medical. It's very advanced. We haven't seen anything like it yet here on Earth. That is being given to those of us who are open and preparing for that, and that it's coming from the very advanced beings who have already evolved way past us. So when I see this new Earth paradigm, we see this. I see celestial cities. I see celestial cities that actually can blend in what we are having here and experiencing here. I already see, I have already with my natural eye have seen two Earths. So I know that this is happening already to a certain degree. The main thing is that everyone is operating at their highest capacity of fulfillment and beyond. It's it's quite amazing and magical, and I could say so much more about it, and we don't have that much time, but and then there are those of us who will actually graduate to that here right now. There are those of us, I know I will be one of them. I've had to help a lot of people here on planet Earth. I'm like, oh, can I help? Can I just evolve here? But there are those of us who will evolve into our light bodies. There are those of us who will experience a degree of this that we're talking about. So that's my statement on the new Earth.
Yeah, we definitely could have a much longer conversation about that, and I feel really excited right now, actually.
Good.
So we'll do these quick fire questions because I know we're over time with you. The final questions that we ask, there's 3, like Stephen said. So first is, what book or books, up to 3, would you recommend that everyone should read?
You're gonna think this is silly, but it's not. I at this point in my life, I think everybody should read every day, Think and Grow Rich.
I don't think that's silly.
Every day. Okay, every day, because it really, riches begins in the thought and in the mind. The riches begin in the thoughts, and everything. Riches includes everything, and until we train our minds, these computers, so Think and Grow Rich. And when I was looking at your questions, I'm like, oh, what book? If I had a child, what book would I want them to read? And I'm like, well, Think and Grow Rich. This is really what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's a child's book, a children's book based on Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, brilliant. There should be. I'm going to
So
look for that right after that.
I think there's an opportunity there.
Let's co-create it.
Yeah, there's
let's
an
co-create
opportunity
it.
there.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. So, oh my gosh, if there's not, let's create one. So Think and Grow Rich, that one's for sure. And what I'm reading right now is the Radiant Sutras by Lauren Roach, which is, oh my gosh, it's delicious. 112 Gateways to the Yoga of Wonder and Delight, where the Tantric Sutras have been translated, and every little word is a deepening into the physical expression of life, whether it's an inhale or an exhale or a scent, making love, walking up the hill. But you deepen the meditation. It causes you to deepen in your meditation through the expression of the divine coming through your body, which is, it's just amazing. So those are the 2. I don't think I have a third. The third one that I do read every day is Working with the Law. Yeah, I do have a third. Working with the Law, which is by Raymond Hollowell. And it's actually, this is where I learned about the laws of the universe. I read it every day, a little bit each day. I put it into practice. And it literally causes me and causes one to really work with the laws of the universe. It's profound. It's very profound. Yeah.
Those are great. Really good. Second question, what item or thing have you held on to the longest and why?
I like that. I still like questions. I have a silver Indian bracelet since I have a silver Indian bracelet since I was 18. We were walking down the streets in New York, walked into an Indian store, saw a silver Indian bracelet. It couldn't have cost that much. It's probably worth a lot now. I've worn it every day since then.
Wow.
On my left wrist. I take it off at night. But every day, and it's molded to it's pure silver. And that's what I have. That's the longest that I've had. And it's a part of me. I'm going to pass it on to my daughter, and it's infused with every essence, every prayer, every tear, every joy, everything of my life is in that silver bracelet.
Great. Third, what have you learned in the last 30 days that you think every person should know?
That's funny. I saw that too. I was like, well, okay. I have to think about it because I keep a journal and I keep great notes on everything. So what I have here is what I wrote down. I actually have to write it down is, and what I would want everyone to know is our capacity to expand. Each and every day, I have moments where I'm expanding more. It's like my awareness expands into the infinite. And another part of the universe opens up to me. I could feel it in my brain. I could feel it in my soul and my spirit. And so this expansion that's happening and it's infinite, the infinite field is allowing me to acknowledge and accept the possibilities of advanced technologies and art and music, because I'm an artist, and the creative possibilities. And it's just phenomenal. And then because of that, I'm able to connect with very advanced beings and receive advanced knowledge and delight. So so this is over the 30 days. It's happened more often the last 6 months. And then the last 30 days, I'm like, what is happening? Wow, wow. What? It just gets like that. And so, I'm like, whoa, this is a great ride. It's just beautiful. So our brains, our souls, who we are as infinite beings, expands and expands and expands. And so that's my last 30 days.
Wow. Well, Ayanna, before we let you go, where should people connect with you online, and what would you like listeners to know about what's coming up for you?
Okay. So you can reach me, you can see what I'm doing on www.ayannamojica.com, AYANNAMOJICA.com. On Facebook, I'm very active. AyannaMojica.com. I have a women's group called Priestess of Power and Wealth, which is online on Facebook. And what I have coming up, that's also my handle for Twitter and Instagram, and I have a page on LinkedIn. And what I have coming up is I'm launching the Feminine Wealth Academy, and that's being launched in September. They should look out for that. And it will be very intimate mentoring in a group. I'll have about 12 women in that group, and we'll be working together very intimately for 3 months. And that will also be a membership site for all things having to do with women in their feminine power, women learning wealth, very practical, very spiritual, energetic, everything that's involved with the wealth, and experts in the field as well. So that's what's coming up.
Sounds amazing.
Oh, fantastic, Ayanna.
Really, really exciting. Very exciting. Really a wonderful chat. Thank you for being so candid and open.
Thank you.
It's really, really amazing to hear all aspects of what you've been through, what you're creating, and who you are.
Yeah, we all have a part. And I'm looking forward to hearing your stories. We all have a part. I mean, really, we all have a part. Even your little one that I haven't met yet, I think it's a she.
Yeah.
Yes.
Female. Yeah. She has a part, and she comes in like very awake and aware and alive.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, we all have a part, and to be able to dance with you both at this time and given the platform to share what I love to talk about, but I don't usually get a chance to because, the people aren't interested that much yet, but they will be. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for the opportunity to dance with you in this time.
All right, that's it for this week's Ownstream podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this fantastic interview with Ayanna Mojica. Be sure to check out the show notes for this episode for links to everything mentioned, including her website, social media channels, and more. All of that can be found at ownstream.co/Ayanna Mojica. That's ownstream.co/AYANNAMOJICA.
Also, before we let you go, please sign up for our weekly tip-off email at ownstream.co and just click the sign up button in the upper right-hand corner. This is where we share each Monday 3 cool things we've learned in the last week in the areas of lifestyle, business, and spirit. This could be an amazing quote, individual, tip, or tool designed to bring you more freedom and power in your life. So definitely sign up for that again at ownstream.co and just click sign up.
Finally, we recently started our Facebook page. Please like us at facebook.com/Ownstream and be the first to know about new podcast episodes, new blog content, and cool stuff related to our personal journey. Also, we're on Twitter at Ownstream and on Instagram where we post regularly at own_stream. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening to the Ownstream podcast. To learn more and connect with us, please visit ownstream.co or follow us on Twitter at Ownstream and Instagram at own_stream.